Welcome to Chess Tactics. This is part one of a series designed to make you a much better chess player. In this course, we're going to cover the techniques that people use in chess games all the way to Grandmaster. That's right. Masters and Grandmasters in chess use these tactics in this list to get their wins. Now, this list may seem a little confusing at first, but trust me, when we get through with this, you're going to be much better than you are now, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So for this lesson, we're going to talk about the very first one, pins. What is a pin? Well, in nearly every game, pins are used at some point. They're the most common tactic found in chess. You will see them all the time, from the beginning, middle, and end game. So what is a pin? So let's take the kings off the board just so we can see clearly what a pin is. Here the white queen pins the black bishop to the rook. Now, we would all rather lose a bishop than a rook. A rook is worth 5, a bishop is worth 3. So the less valuable piece is being pinned to the more valuable piece. If this bishop were to move off c7, then the queen could capture the rook. So in this sense, we say the bishop is pinned to the rook. It can't move. Well, actually it could move, but if it were to move, the rook could fall. Let's have a look at another example. Here, the white bishop can pin this black knight to the king. Now, this is not like the last pin where, hey, we could have moved the bishop, but we would lose it if we lose the rook if we move the bishop. In this example, we actually cannot move this knight. If this knight were to move, then the king would be in check, and that's illegal. So we call this an absolute pin. This knight isn't going anywhere. Let's have a look at this example. If you're white, this is the best possible pin of all. Black made a blunder, lined his king and queen up on a white diagonal, and white, boom, pow. This is an absolute pin. The queen is pinned to the king. This queen cannot go anywhere, and it is going to be captured on the next turn. Now here's a different kind of pin. You see that rook there on b1? It is actually pinning that knight on b5. Well, how is that, you may say? Well, look at it a little deeper. Do you see the pin? The pin is, if this knight were to move, then the rook on g8 would be lost. If the knight moves, say, to d6, then the white rook drops down and calls check against the king. The king moves out of the way, the black rook falls. So do you see how this knight is actually in a pin? It does not want to move. This is called a situational pin. So now you've seen a few examples of the basic pin. Let's see if we can identify them in games. Here, can you find the pin? That's right. This knight on f3 is being pinned to the queen by the black bishop. If this knight were to move, then the queen would fall. This is actually an extremely common pin. You find this in numerous games. How about in this example? This is a little harder. Can you find the pin? Well, this pawn here up on g7 is actually pinned. Well, you may say, how could that be pinned? Pawns move forward. Remember, pawns move forward, but they capture diagonally. This pawn, yes, it can move forward, but it cannot capture anything diagonally because of that queen sitting there on g3. So the pawn is pinned. So what can white do to exploit this pin? Can you see it? Yes, the rook on f1. This is a free knight. That rook on f1 can go right up the board, take the knight on f6, and the black pawn cannot capture back the rook. White is going to win this game by getting a free knight. This is the power of a pin. Let's have a look at this example. Can you find the pin? Well, it is this knight on b4. This knight cannot move. If the knight were to move, then the rook on b7 would drop down, take the rook on b1, call check. The rook on a1 would take the black rook, and then the other black rook on b8 would take the next rook. White would actually lose both rooks if he moved this knight. Do you see it? And let's look at one more example. This is a little tricky, but this is actually quite common. I dare to say that most chess players that play a lot of chess games have got stuck in this at one point or another. I have. I've fallen for this before. So look at this. Can you find the pin? It's a little hard. Give it a good shot. This pawn here on f7 is pinned. It's pinned from capturing to the left. See this bishop here slicing down on that pawn? That pawn could not possibly capture anything on g6 because it is pinned by the white bishop. And that means this queen can take a free knight. Very, very bad if you're black in this position. You just gave white a free knight. So now let's bring up a very important principle with pins. If you have a pin on your opponent, here's the principle I want you to remember. Attack the pinned piece. Look at this. Black has a pin on the white knight. The white knight cannot move without risking the queen. And if it's black to move here, black can attack the knight again. The knight is pinned, so black attacks the pinned piece. And now look, this knight can't go anywhere or its queen goes. Attacking the pinned piece is a great way to deal with a pin if you're the one giving the pin. Here's another example. Notice the white bishop is pinning this knight to the queen. It's white to move. How does white attack the pinned piece? The black knight is pinned, so let's attack it again. That's right, knight to d5. And now we've double attacked this knight on f6. This could be very risky for black. Now let's look at another example. Here, white just wants to castle, get his king to safety. But it's black to move. And black pins this white bishop to the king. Now, if white were to castle here, then the bishop would be lost. Free bishop for the rook. Now, obviously, white does not want that. So that's not good for white. So white decides, hey, this bishop's pinned. I need to protect it. So white brings the queen over to protect the bishop. Now the bishop is protected. If the rook were to take the bishop, the queen would simply take the rook. So what does black do? Well, remember we said attack the pinned piece. Black attacks the bishop again. And now, if white were to castle, the white bishop would be lost. Black bishop would take, and the queen could not take back, or the rook would take the queen. So white says, hey, I'm going to protect the piece again. White brings the knight to d4 and once again reprotects the bishop. But now you're black here. Can you gang up on this pinned piece yet again? Yes, you can. The black knight comes in to f4, and once again, we've piled on the pinned piece. That piece is pinned. It is attacked multiple times by black. And white has no way to further protect that bishop. In fact, if black wanted to, he could even bring his queen in to e5 and attack it once again. White can't possibly defend this bishop. It's going to fall, and white has lost the game. Now we're going to look at another way in which pins are so powerful and effective. See this position. It's white to move. White is actually down material here. If you look at our rooks, we have them lined up on f1 and f2. Now look at the f8 square. Imagine for a moment we could get one of our rooks on f8. This would be checkmate. Can you see that? Except for one problem. There's one black piece that is kind of getting in our way. There's a black piece that is guarding the f8 square. Who is it? That's right, it's that knight on e6. The knight is playing a very important job in black's position. The knight guards the f8 square. He is literally a workhorse. Now in this course, from now on, when you see a piece highlighted in blue like this with a little shield, what it means is that that piece is playing a critical role in defense. The piece is working to defend a very important square. That's what that means. This knight is not simply sitting on a square. Sometimes our pieces perform important duties. They're working, literally. This knight has a very important role in Black's camp. The knight defends the key square f8. So what can White do here to completely win this game? White puts his bishop on c4. Now watch what happens to this knight. The knight is now pinned to the king and his shield falls. What has just happened? Well, this is one of the functions of a pin, another reason why pins are so powerful. This pin has rendered the knight's job useless. The knight has been fired. He can't work anymore. And this is one of the things that pins do to your pieces. When a piece is pinned, it often cannot perform its function. Its job is limited or removed altogether. And this is a reason why we want to get our opponents in pins, because pieces play important roles on the chessboard. And when you have a piece in a pin, it often can no longer do its job. So now we know what pins are. Let's talk about what happens when we are in a pin, when our opponent puts a pin on us. As we already know, pins work to the advantage of the one who is giving the pin. So if you're in a pin, you don't want to stay in a pin for very long. Allowing yourself to remain in a pin will build an advantage with your opponent. So how do we deal with pins? Well, there's 5 ways we can deal with a pin if we're the ones being pinned. We can block the pin, attack the pinning piece, we can ignore the pin altogether, we can move out of the pin, or we can counterattack. Let's look at each of these really quickly. First, let's take a look at blocking the pin, which is simply unpinning. So we have this position right here. The black bishop is pinning the knight against the queen. If it's our turn to white, we can simply block the pin. There we are. We have unpinned the knight. We put our bishop in between the knight and the queen, and it's no longer pinned. Our knight is free. And what else? Well, we can also attack the pinning piece. This is another way to deal with the pin. So that bishop is really annoying us. It has our knight pinned. We can push our pawn up to h3 and attack the bishop. The bishop here may move back and keep the pin alive. Or the bishop may simply take the knight, and then we take back with our queen. So in this case, we may have to push our pawn yet again. We attack the bishop again with a pawn, and now the knight is no longer pinned. But notice, by doing this, our pawn structure is being stretched. It might not be so safe to castle kingside. And let's look at another way to handle a pin. We could ignore it, right? We could simply say, hey, my knight's in a pin. I don't care. If you take it, I'll just take with your pawn. I'm going to ignore the pin. So here, white just brings the knight out to c3. Now be careful here, because here's another tactic I want you to remember. If you have a pin against you, the longer you let that pin stay, the more opportunity you give your opponent. So it's generally not a good idea to allow yourself to stay in a pin for too long. By ignoring this pin, black can simply push his pawn and, remember, attack the pin piece. That's the tactic you use. When you have your opponent in a pin, you attack the pinned piece. And so the white knight is being attacked twice. Now white must push this pawn to attack the bishop. Black can exchange. White takes the bishop. And we have this position. And now it's not horrible for white, but it's very dangerous now for white to castle kingside. So ignoring a pin, yes, it may work sometimes, but be careful about that, because by allowing your opponent to have a pin on you, they have more opportunities to exploit it. And now let's look at another example. We can move out of the pin. Now this is an easy one. Have a look at this position. The white knight is pinned again to the queen. Here we just move our queen out of the pin. Boom, problem solved. Look at that. There's no more a pin. The knight is free. In fact, the bishop may want to mess up our pawn structure, takes the knight, Yes, our pawn structure is messed up, but look what we have now with our queen. We have a nice little attack on b7. It's not so bad for us. So another way to deal with a pin is just get your valuable piece out of the pin. And now let's look at the last way to deal with a pin. This is probably my favorite. This is called the counterattack. Here, the white rook is going to pin this bishop to the queen. Look at it. It looks very powerful, doesn't it? You have a bishop pinned to the queen, and it's attacked twice. The rook and the white bishop both attack this black bishop. And it looks like white is going to come out ahead on this, right? Well, there's something in this position that white missed. It's called a counterattack. Black has a very powerful move to completely destroy white's plans. Do you see what it is? Notice the white king down here and these pawns in front of it. The king is stuck in this little cave, like in this little tunnel, and he's buried deep in his hole. White is buried so black can exploit it. The black queen goes to c3, and now look. The white position is going to fall apart. What happens if the white bishop takes the black bishop, then the black queen takes the rook? And it's the same thing. If white decides to take the bishop with his rook, what does black do? Can you see it from here? That's right. Queen to e1, and it's checkmate. Let's have another look at how we can use a counterattack to stop a pin. Here you see the white rook is behind the black bishop. The black bishop is pinned to the queen, and it's white to move. And so white says, hey, I'm going to attack the pinned piece. Makes sense. And pushes a pawn to b5, and now this bishop is double attacked by the queen. But there's an amazing resource that black has to escape this pin. Can you find it? Have a good look at this position. What should black do? Here, what black can do to get out of this pin and win the game is take this pawn on g2 with check. Now do you see what's going to happen? The king is in check. The king must move. The king takes the bishop on g2, and now what does the queen do? That's right, takes the rook, and it's game over for white. And that's it. We've covered the lesson on pins. They are a very important weapon in your chess arsenal. Use them, and good luck in your chess.